You have to move fast. You have to be able to learn very quickly. You have to be able to fail, and you're allowed to fail, which is the most important thing. But the key thing is learning from those failures and using your learners to inform your next action. And there is a lot of experimentation, I'll tell you. You're allowed to have fun as well.
That's right. And the thing about AI is having the right information to feed AI. It's not just so the right information to feed AI. When I've asked pretty big companies what they're doing in terms of, measuring engagement, they're like, "Oh, we're using AI to create more adaptive and, more personalized learning." I'm like, "But how are you using AI? What are you feeding AI?" So when you feed AI meaningful metrics, the 7 times data set versus a binary data set of just time and attention, you can create a more meaningful feedback loop for the and when the player owns that information, they can start to create a more impactful learning journey for themselves. So that's the opportunities. You actually feed AI this information, the 7 times data set. The game becomes more impactful.
While the tech industry chases AI billions with promises of super intelligent machines, a different story is unfolding in the startup layer. Entrepreneurs who focus on how people use technology are finding success not by selling AI dreams, but by solving real problems. Today, we look back at 2024 through the eyes of 6 AI entrepreneurs choosing trust over the billion-dollar AI dream approach. I'm Declan Dunn, founder of the AI Optimists, and I help entrepreneurs, small businesses, and creatives take advantage of AI before it takes advantage of them. These voices represent a quiet shift in how AI adoption happens. What I've learned from them is trust, not technology, will be AI's true currency in 2025. You have to earn trust. From a nonprofit to an AI SaaS company, the first focus again and again is on the people, the users, the customers, the employees. How we fit AI into our lives will define how fast this grows. That begins with trusting the AI, which isn't evident in an early AI stuck between chatbots and fully automated AI agents. We're not there yet. Sure, it's close, but unlike those billion-dollar startups with 3 years to burn money, when you're small, you don't have to think lean or agile. You live it every day. Like Amanda Slavin of Learning Frequency, the first entrepreneur here who really inspires me with how she uses AI. One of the biggest issues that comes up is upskilling, getting people educated on how to use AI, how to use these various tools. And Learning Frequency is going right into the very learning institutions, sort of progressive independent organizations all around the world in many different cultures. And the skills that they teach are what some would call, and let me paraphrase Amanda, teach children the skills they need to embrace the human skills, which some people call power skills. Others call them soft skills. We're talking about empathy, compassion, critical thinking, being part of a team, collaborating. And as Amanda says, all of these are unbelievably important.
Teach children the skills that they need to embrace the human skills, which some people call power skills, some people call soft skills, empathy, compassion, again, critical thinking, being able teamwork, collaboration, all of these skills that we say are unbelievably important in the workplace, but do not allow for in the classroom because we are still using an industrial revolution output model where only when you're spoken to, raise your hand, sit still all day. And then these kids get into the real world and we're like, well, why aren't you solving problems? Or why don't you have, why aren't you self-initiation? And why aren't you self-sufficient? And why don't you understand how to do these things? And why can't you use it? And it is so unfair to these kids. And so the way that teachers can use this and the way that teachers are using this is this is a real example. A teacher used this information. They had 5 students, and so she chose 5 students to focus on. And one of the students wasn't able to finish their work. Literally, almost every single day, they were not able to finish their work. And so the teacher looked at the student's frequency bot, and in one of the answers, she actually said that she gets really distracted when it's too noisy and that she would prefer to have noise canceling headphones as one of the ways to be able to prevent that distraction. And so the teacher said, I could just give her noise canceling headphones. And then the teacher remembered, and again, she has 25 students, that this student kept coming up to her and saying, it's really noisy. It's really hard for me to concentrate. And this was a student that learned about their own engagement. I have a quote from one of the students that said, help understanding how I learn helps me because it helps me understand what I can do and not what I can't do. And so that is the power. The teachers use this by having students be able to look at themselves and say, these are small things that are possible. These are small changes that can be made for every single student.
Well, Amanda Slavin shows how AI empowers people when we focus on their needs. Richmond Alake demonstrates how the same human-first principle transforms organizations from within. Both recognize that AI adoption isn't about technology rollout, it's creating environments where humans thrive. And at MongoDB, where Richmond works, he shows me how employees are encouraged to be entrepreneurs. And this mindset is so key to anyone using AI, whether they're an employee, founder, or simply someone trying to figure it out. Check out what Richmond shares.
What important truths do very few people agree with you on regarding the potential advantages of being an entrepreneur mindset within a large, I'll call it large, established company like MongoDB?
One thing is there is this common rhetoric that you have to quit your job, your 9 to 5, to be successful as an entrepreneur. That is not true anymore. And within MongoDB is even less true, because one thing you have to notice, or people that are listening, is your career can go hand in hand with your entrepreneurial journey. And I mean, your professional career can go hand in hand with your entrepreneurial journey. And you can actually learn a lot from people within this large corporate companies. Essentially, within MongoDB, what I've learned is to be obsessed. And I mean overly obsessed about people that are using your product. And if we relate that to my title as a developer advocate, my products, notebooks or GitHub repositories or videos or even this podcast, and being overly obsessed, what MongoDB has taught me is to think about who is on the receiving end and how they're feeling, what they're thinking about when they're consuming your content or using your product. So that is something that you may not learn on your own. MongoDB truly is a customer-obsessed company, and the best people, entrepreneurs or CEOs, are very obsessed about their customers.
So do you think the skills that required to be a successful entrepreneur within a large corporation, what are they different? Like in a startup, obviously we're very, very different, lean and honest and flowing on intuition. What sort of skills are involved in day-to-day that really help you thrive in this environment?
Now, one important skill is to be able to be both forward-thinking and also be experimental and move with urgency, basically. So AI moves at the speed of innovation. There are models being released every single week, or embedded models, or large language models, or tools. It's my job to be able to understand where the field is going at least 6 months in advance. And I'm able to then take that forward thinking and implement it within the strategies that we use to create, that we follow when we're creating content. So for example, very earlier on this year, we were able to notice that agents are becoming more reliable and more predictable, and more people are building them and learning about them. So we started to put a strategy together to help understand how, one, memory fits into agent, then how MongoDB can empower our customers or developers learn and use these agentic systems that will be coming out later on this year. So right now we have a team working on content, working on GitHub repositories, and showing up in the places that matters for our customers, our developers, to help understand this agentic system and how MongoDB plays within this agentic system we want to build an agent for. So these are things that we have to think about. And when you come into a corporate company, you can still be an entrepreneur. You can still act like a startup, especially if you're within AI. You have to move fast. You have to be able to learn very quickly. You have to be able to fail, and you're allowed to fail, which is the most important thing. But the key thing is learning from those failures and using your learners to inform your next action. And there is a lot of experimentation, I'll tell you. But you're allowed to have fun as well.
This entrepreneurial culture Richmond describes at MongoDB, fast learning, embracing failure, constant improvement, finds a parallel in how Richard White built Fathom. But Richard took it further, applying these principles not just to product development, but to his entire business model. See, his journey with Fathom began as a personal frustration with Zoom meetings during COVID. In a way, he was the customer he was looking for. By waiting 2 years to monetize, Fathom built such a strong user trust by listening to them that his customers invested $2 million at the same terms as venture capitalists. Talk about aligning incentives. Customers investing in Fathom is trust, literally as currency. Earned trust with lock-in. While big tech tries to build these moats and keep people out, Fathom makes you part of their business and product development. That's where trust begins.
Right before COVID, I was actually doing a lot of product research. And so that meant I was on a bunch of Zoom meetings. And I was trying to talk to people and take notes at the same time. And I'm hurry typing up notes. And then after the meeting, I'm cleaning up those notes so that they make any sense. And I just felt like this is such a terrible process. There were some tools that were doing stuff like this, or recording transcription, but they're really focused on salespeople only, and they're really expensive. And we say, gosh, why are they so expensive? Well, because transcription is really expensive. And so we kind of have this thesis that we think transcription is going to become really cheap. There's a product that people were charging $150 a month for, but we said we're going to give it away for free because we think that cost curve will catch up. By the time we have enough usage, the cost curve will come down, and we think this thing will just spread like wildfire, and then we'll drop in AI when it gets really good, and it'll get even better. That was kind of the thesis. I like to think about metrics, and I like to think about metrics back to front. So I always say I want to solve one key metric at a time in the business. I see a lot of people that start off and they're like, we're trying to monetize, and we're trying to improve engagement, and we're trying to fix our onboarding. I'm like, pick one, right? In Fathom's case, it was I always start with free user retention first. I'm a big fan of monetize. We did monetize until we were 2 years in. I'm a big fan of delayed monetization because I think it's hard enough to get people to use the thing, but then to get them also to pay for it, getting them to use it's a hard enough barrier for most products, in my opinion. And I'm generally of the belief that if someone's using your product day in, day out, you'll eventually find a way to charge them, or you'll charge people like them. So we focused on retention first and really figured out retention. Once we figured out retention in that beta period with those 50 users I mentioned, then great, we launched, we saw those users, we saw that onboarding didn't work. And then we got really smart about, okay, let's make sure onboarding works really well. Great, now that onboarding works really well, let's focus on referral loops and virality. Oh wait, the market shifted, no one cares about growth. Put referral loops on the shelf and go focus on monetization. And so I think in all these cases, there's a top level metric, and we go build a dashboard of here's all the things that contribute into that metric. And every day, I think on the onboarding thing, I paired with one of our engineers, and we spent 3 months, and every day we were just okay, let's look at the numbers today. What feels like the weakest spot we could push on? Let's go get rid of that page. Let's go simplify this page. And there's a PRD, probably Notion page, 5 pages long at the end of it. Just here's all the bullet points of things we do every day. And then check the numbers. So I think that approach to kind of data driven things, again, most startups can't do it at an early stage, which is why you've got to go with your gut. But if you have enough data, obviously it's the way better way to operate sort of thing than trust and verify.
See, now listening to that, you might think Richard just has a cute little AI note-taking service, and that's what he focused on, building his own proprietary technology. And as he says in an interview with TechCrunch about the Series A, he goes, working with models is very different from typical engineering projects. His quote, their output is not a feature, it's actually spec. And it has a failure rate. It's not like engineering where you put something on the roadmap, it gets done. It's 50% time right now. If it's not good enough, let's go check back in 6 months. I think it required rethinking the product development process a little bit and encouraged him to develop his own product, his own technology. Now think about that when you think of ChatGPT, because the promise is we'll all use their API, use their service, but some of these savvy people are finding out it's not good to play with them because they have the same 50% failure rate. Richard's patience in building user trust before monetization might seem at odds with AI's instant gratification. And Fathom was pre-ChatGPT, so early before AI was cool to investors. Now, Barzan Mozafari's work at Keebo also shows how to build trust quickly when you focus on solving specific, high-value problems. Imagine AI installed in 30 minutes, ROI usually within 24 hours. Enterprise AI adoption is supposedly complex, expensive, and slow, Barzan says. Listen to how he changes that and fills a gap by providing a solution that's based on performance, not just charging a big monthly fee to have you see if it works out.
We're really looking at AI adoption among enterprise specifically being sort of slow. And it seems to be lagging behind expectations. And as an interesting entrepreneur in this space, what's your read on that situation of why AI is, where resistance is happening, just from your experience?
Before I kind of give you the answer, I want to also echo what you said. It is the AI adoption is it's disappointing that the rate of progress we're making in AI or machine learning as a field is far surpassing the rate at which we're seeing adoption. So how do we actually get this in the end user's hands? And then we did a very thorough analysis of what were some of the main objections, some of the main obstacles against adoption. So I would actually put them into 4 categories. You ask me what I think are the causes of a slower adoption. The first one is the implementation effort needed. The second one is the maintenance effort needed. The third one is the security and privacy concerns. And the fourth one, I would say, is the ROI, right? And then there's a fifth thing, which is kind of an all-encompassing thing, which I'll talk about, which is the bot factor. I'll talk about this in a second. But if you start from the top of this list, implementation effort, it means oftentimes you realize for you to be able to use a solution out there, you have to put in, AI is a complete new beast to most enterprises. They've been doing their business, whether it's insurance or healthcare, for 2, 3, 4 decades, sometimes the exact same way. And suddenly they're hearing Gen AI, Chat GPT, LLMs, AI, and then you're expecting these execs will be doing something for the exact same way for the past 30 days to jump in and say, yeah, sign me up. And some of them are saying it, but then the bill adds up. Well, how do we know if this is going to work or not? There's an upfront investment, right? Like public companies, they have a quarterly goal, right? They're not going to go in there. It's so much harder. Some of them are actually putting what it takes. But if you think about it, oftentimes, there's a huge implementation risk. Meaning, I have to hire the right people, take in a bunch of different vendors who claim the same thing, massage my own data, define POC success criteria, go through this entire process to implement it. And that's the first barrier. And after that, okay, let's say that we implement this solution. For us to be able to continue using it, what's the maintenance or the ongoing cost? So there's a CapEx part of it, the initial investment I have to make in terms of hiring headcounts, training, changing the way I'm doing things and setting things up. But then there's obviously an OpEx aspect to it. Like what's the maintenance cost of this, the total cost of ownership, if I want to maintain this and make sure that the quality is there, et cetera, right? And then on top of this, with all these regulations and concerns, and rightly so, about security and privacy, now, obviously, the CIOs have to think about, you have your AI, how do I know that my customer, my end users' data is not going to end up somewhere in your LLM helping another customer? Something's not leaking out, creating a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, right? So the security, and then in general, whenever you talk about AI, the biggest concern is what about security, what about privacy, what about fairness? ethics laws, all these kind of regulations and compliance requirements. And then if you get over that hurdle, now you have to start talking about dollars. Okay, I put in this amount of upfront investment. This is the maintenance investments. Here are the safeguards I have to put in, or additional investments I have to make sure that compliant with security, privacy, HIPAA, et cetera, kind of, requirements. Where is the ROI? When will I be able to sort of say, here's, do I have anything, and when will I have something to show for? That, hey, I added all this cost, I distracted so many resources. We have a business that's been working for the past 3 decades now. As a new exec, I have to make some decisions. How do I know there's enough ROI?
While Keebo demonstrates how to make AI adoption immediate and practical, Masoud Alabash's work at Omadeus reveals why, by breaking down AI into smaller focused agents that users can trust because the boundaries of those agents are clear and their purpose is specific. His vision of small focused AI agents under human control is showing how bottom-up AI development might outperform top-down approaches. These results challenge the wisdom about AI native platforms. Instead of wrapping AI around old software practices, Masoud is doing something new.
We're using our own product to build our own product. So we're actually one of our own top users. You can think of it as a tool to create AI agents without code that perform tasks and manage communication and documentation. So you can think of it that way in the language of AI agent today, but it uses that architecture of that I described that we call object messaging and intelligent objects. So it uses that in the notion of a critical entity being self-contained and self-aware and having algorithms associated with it to limit its execution in terms of what all it can do. So it's not going to go haywire and hallucinate. It's a very deterministic process, but the tiny language model inside those objects just gives it the ability of understanding natural language, really, and being able to interact with users and understand if an object comes to you and there's been a conversation for 2 weeks with 4 other people and you forget about it, you just ask the object saying, summarize yourself. And it just summarize it and say, well, highlight what Declan had to say about it. So instead of you reading, 3 weeks of history, it
Right.
can interact with you in an intelligent way. Or maybe you're an attorney and you get our system and you have 4 people working for you and you want to assign things to people. So instead of sending him a message, you create this task agent and say, Declan, do XYZ for this client and it's belonging to this project, so, and that object comes and tells you, and then you sit there and go, well, I need Susie's help as well. Can you get Susie's help? And that object shows up in Susie's inbox. It's not that you have to send a message to Susie's inbox. So basically, this is really what changes everything. That's why in my introduction pitch, I said, instead of shuffling dumb messages back and forth, you're basically exchanging intelligent objects. And these objects just know where to go, because if you ask Declan if we need something, it's like an intelligent agent. It's not a message. It'll show up and say, do we need, and it knows what to share with you. So this is really by design. And we're giving behavior, very predefined, disciplined behavior to these critical entities, these objects. And then we let them loose. But we will let them loose. They're not going to go all over the place. They're well programmed. They cannot execute more than these 4 or 18 functions, but they also can read and understand language, and you can ask them questions. And so it completely changes the whole game. And imagine a lot of little bots that are intelligent, but they're confined. They're custom programmed, but they're intelligent. So but they're not going to run wild, you see.
New rules, new user experience. Can non-technical people use what Masoud's outlining? By building intelligence into the object, it makes it easier for people to use. Now, designing for human usage is key here, and I want to know about non-technical staff. That's where I come to play. They might not understand the object-centric approach. Can normal people use this, or do we still need an engineer's training to get it? It sounds like the old question where people used to try to figure out how a computer works rather than using it as a tool. But remember, AI is a platform, not just a tool in Masood's world. The RUTH project, focusing on helping people overcome tech abuse, harassment, even trafficking, takes this trust-first approach to its logical conclusion, proving that sometimes the best way to build user trust is to collect less data, not more. This common sense approach to user safety helped them scale in 29 countries in months, proving that sometimes the best use of AI is knowing when not to use it. And what I really love that you're not doing is that you don't make the user feel, especially these users, which is a wide variety, wide net, but you're not making them feel observed.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a really cool way. You're making them feel safe. And that's such a not only hard thing to do, but if I'm a new user, sort of walk me through how I've just heard about you. Is it the tone, the language, the resources? I know you can't say what exactly it is, but what's sort of the mix that develops that really cool trust, which is just so awesome?
Now you're asking for the secret sauce. I'm just saying.
Yes, I am. I want the code too.
I'm just joking. So I think a couple of things, right? So we could have easily just put a chat bot out there and said, "Hey, try it out," right? But as I mentioned before, we are very much survivor focused, and what that means is we, in everything we do, we try to take into account a couple of things. Is how would this make me feel if I was the one asking these questions? And I think we need to be able to have it respond in such a way that feels like you're talking to a friend more than a doctor, right? And to do that, it really does require a lot of training, a lot of testing, a lot of prompt engineering, right? In this instance, to ensure that as you get the responses back, that it's not just a clear cut and dry. And, we had done the soft launch at the end of June, which was sort of just this like clunky model that we put out there. And it was something that we were using, but it was still pretty robust. But we learned a lot from the time we soft launched to the time we got to our hard launch, which was mid-September, that there were certain ways that it was responding that just didn't make sense, right? And our goal was really to try to make it to where the language barriers could be broken down, which is one of the bigger issues that we deal with in this space, right? Is not being able to support immigrants who may not speak the same language as us. And the second piece of it was really to make sure that we're always making sure the end user feels safe. And that is really, with the questioning, the way it questions, what it's asking for, and just making sure that safety planning is sort of the mindset almost that this AI has, so that you're not encountering some major issues as part of the dialogue that you have with it. So, you know, I could say it's all just in prompt engineering. It isn't. It is prompt engineering. It's testing and validating. It's making sure that the LLM model that you're using is actually responding the way that it is. Like we tested, I think it was 3 different models that we tested. But I think it was important to make sure that we picked the right large language model, right? And for us, we landed on Anthropic because we felt that was the most robust model that we could find with the responses that it was giving and the way that we would be able to tailor it. So, will we change down the line if we find a better model? Sure. We've built our backend in such a way that we can switch it out at any time. But the goal here really was to make sure that the prompting is done correctly, that the context that we provided is done correctly, and also that the model that we choose to use is also something that's robust enough to address these types of issues.
The next wave of AI success won't be measured in valuations, but in trust earned. Amanda Slavin's students controlling their learning data, Richard White's customers becoming investors, Barzan Mozafari proving value to businesses in 24 hours with 30-minute setup, Masood Alabash constraining AI to make it more useful, and MongoDB's Richmond Alaki shows us how learning from failure builds lasting innovation, and how a big company can actually have employees acting as entrepreneurs with the freedom to fail and the accountability to make it work. So many are caught up in predicting what's going to happen in the next 5 years that they don't take care of people, employees, customers, all of us right now. In 2024, many in AI were acting like doctors, spouting complex technical questions without answers, asked of others who didn't understand the whole AI question. It's way above their understanding. The stories you've just heard aren't the ones making headlines. You won't find these entrepreneurs promising AI to replace you or destroy you. Instead, they're quietly solving real problems for real people. Real business solving real high-value problems, what I call HVPs. It's the trust advantage. RUTH's project exemplifies this perfectly. By choosing not to track vulnerable users, they built enough trust to scale to 29 countries in months. That's the power of putting people first. It begins with users, listening to them, adapting to them, encouraging them, and building trust. That's the core of business. Trust is the new AI currency in 2025. Money follows.